Welcome.
To the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 308 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Going to be live hacking on some Firefox stuff today. We're going back to the future of the Windows jump list stuff. This is something that we've been working on for a while. You know what? Let me share my screen and we'll go through it. Like, why jump ahead, right? Like, let's just get in there. So, welcome to the stream. We're going to be doing some stuff today with Firefox. It's going to be great. We're going to get stuck. It's going to be marvelous. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. If you've never seen this stream before, I always start with that, mainly because if this is your first time watching, I want you to know that, like, things could go completely sideways. This is like cable access production values. Also, I don't have much of a plan. I might get stuck, sidelined. We might be debugging stuff for a while. If you've never seen live hacking before, what you're seeing here is like software development in the raw, warts and all. So, we might get stuck, or we might succeed in trying to do what we're trying to do. We'll see. So that's the first thing. Second thing, the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, it's in the details section over here. If you're watching this on YouTube, or Diode, it's in the description down below. And if you're watching this on Twitch, it's in the links down below in the whatever you want to call it, doobly-doo, as Hank and John Green like to say sometimes. And if you, as I update the agenda here, as I edit this thing, it will synchronize in the background. So if you see me making changes and there are some links that you want to click on, just reload the page and it should hopefully have those links. I want to briefly mention a couple of things about some stuff that we've been working on for the past couple of episodes. So the first thing is that we started working on these unified extensions, some extensions panel work regarding we were fixing up some tests and we were working on some overflow bugs and all that sort of thing. A lot of that work is either landed or it's about to land. So, I can say that there was a post to the mailing list, Firefox Dev, which is a mailing list where you can hear more about things that happen in the tree. In fact, let me put a link to that Firefox Dev mailing list that you can subscribe to. This is a great way of getting sort of high density. It's not that noisy a channel. Let's see, every couple of days there's a post, but it's like, hey, here's some information about what's going on in the tree, and it's very developer centric. And if that interests you, you can subscribe to this mailing list. It's public. And you also get the blog posts that some of you may or may not be familiar with, blog.nightly.mozilla.org. These things are, you can get a version of those sent to your email if you subscribe to this mailing list. It's maybe not as flashy or pretty as the blog post, but it contains much of the same information. Let's see. In here, there was intent to ship manifest version 3. So that's this is the post that's worth noting from my colleague William here. And William is saying that the add-ons team is thrilled to announce Manifest v3's release is scheduled for Firefox 109. That's hitting release on January 17th. But right now, 109 is what's in Nightly. So if you're running Nightly, doobly-doo was coined by Wheezy Walter. Or Wheezy Waiter? Oh, I didn't know that. That's a little piece of internet history there. I did not know that. And the Unified Extensions UI will also be enabled since it's key to Manifest v3. That's this panel right here, the thing that we'd been working on in the past. There's some information in a blog post, so there's even more that goes out here. So the blog post about MV3 and Unified Extensions, and that's got all the information that you're going to want about what's going on here, like our vision and if people are anxious about oh no, what about uBlock? It's don't worry, we got you covered. We're still going to support blocking web request. We will also support declarative web request, but we're going to keep uBlock working at full power, even though we're going to support Manifest v3 add-ons. So we know, we like ad blockers too. So yeah, we will make sure that uBlock is working at full power. And so that's this blog post. I'm not going to read it for you, but this is worth checking out. It was written by my colleague Shane, and there's some commentary in here, some back and forth. You should check this out. It's a great team. I've been working with the add-ons team on this project with the panel. They're a great team. Special shout out to my colleague William, to my colleague Shane, and to all the people who've been working on this project. I think it's great. You can also follow. Oh yeah, there's lots of people saying you can follow things via RSS. I'll put some links here. You can follow Planet. If you're not familiar with Planet, it's a link aggregator for many blogs that Mazillions have, and that's you can follow that. There's an RSS feed if you want to put that in your feed reader, and there's also if you want to if you're using like Mastodon or ActivityPub, whoops, hang on, let me paste as text. You can follow this account, which effectively mirrors, I think, the Planet Mozilla blog RSS feed. So it's like RSS, and then that, if you want to use that, you can put like .rss after that if you want an RSS feed of a mirror of an RSS feed. Woo! Jamie NK123 once says, want inside scoop. Is the political pressure to not go hard against Google RE the blocking stuff? I'm not sure what the question means. Is there political pressure to not go hard against Google? I mean, what do you mean? Like, we're supporting the blocking web request stuff. We are going against what Google's saying. There is, so I don't know exactly what you're asking. If you're asking whether or not Google has like asked us, hey, can you we're trying to kill ad blockers. Would you mind just like doing that? No, I don't believe that's not how that works. What I know, and again, I'm not on the add-ons team, but like Manifest v3 is something that, this is from my perspective, this is from what I've seen. The Manifest v3 is something that like Google came up with, and they're making sure that that's how their add-ons are going to work in the future. And we want to make sure that it's as easy as possible for people to write extensions for both Chrome and Chrome derivatives and Firefox, which means that if extensions are going on Chrome browsers are going to be using Manifest v3, then it is incumbent upon us to support that. But at the same time, we don't have to strictly abide by what Manifest v3 is, and we are allowed to do variations. Like Manifest v2, which is what we currently ship and what Chrome also supports, we do some variations there, and we add things that Chromium doesn't necessarily have, or Chrome browsers don't have. We extend the API a little bit with some additional stuff, and you can. This is sort of the same idea where we're going to support Manifest v3. So presumably, if you have an add-on that you're writing and you want to make it work in both Firefox and Chrome, and it has to be Manifest v3, we're trying to make your lives easier. That's what we're trying to do here. Jamie asks, why is it not high publicity against them? What are you talking about? High publicity against? What do you want us to do? Do you want us to be like, hey, bad Google, bad Google? Is that what you want us to do? Like, you shouldn't be doing this. Is that what you want? Is that what you're asking for, Jamie NK123? Lol, yes. Well, I mean, in a way, I'm going to speak for myself here. If Google does push this, there might be suddenly a lot of interest in Firefox from people who care about ad blockers. So maybe we want them to do this. That's just myself speaking. I'm not saying that that's like a policy or like that's some Mozilla conspiracy. That's just like my personal opinion. But Google's gonna do what Google's gonna do. Certainly we've in other projects, we've certainly like we'll have conversations with them on things that they want to do, and we'll comment on things. So for example, sometimes Google will propose web APIs and Mozilla will be like, no, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. And there's like a positions, Mozilla positions. You can see, not careers, Mozilla web standards positions. So Google will like put something out there like, hey, we want to have like a particular thing, and then Mozilla will say, yeah, we think that's a good idea, that's good for the web. And for other things we'll say like, no, we do not like that. That is not how we want to operate. So for example, there was one here about let's just pick one, for example, network information API. Mozilla was negative on it. We expand this. Mozilla's position. This API provides information about a client's network connection, which allows sites to obtain additional information about clients and their environment. It is better that sites use methods that dynamically adapt to available bandwidth, as that is more accurate and likely to be applicable in the moment. So in this particular case, we were saying like, hey, this API, we're not a fan of it. We're negative on this for this reason. Other times it's like, let's expand this one. Yeah, significant risks of attacks on native applications. Some of these attacks may be mitigated by pickling or other similar situations. We would be willing to reevaluate the specification or the idea if the proposal is modified with that solution or something. So like, we will publicly disagree absolutely on things like this. And there are other big examples. What was the one that they were doing? What do they call it? Private? What was it? Flock, Google Flock. Yeah. So I think Mozilla had we did a privacy analysis. We did like some deep dives on, here's what we think about what Google's pushing for this particular thing, and we were very public about it. So I'm not exactly what you're looking for, Jamie NK. If you're looking for like Wendy's Twitter style snark, that's not really how we operate. Not like in our blog.mozilla.org blogs. Like, individuals might blog about stuff, but like, I don't know exactly what you're looking for. But we disagree with Google all the time. But we also work with Google all the time. It's like what we call cooperation, in that we're trying to push the web forward for users, but we all have competing different priorities and different perspectives. But we do try and coordinate with one another, so we don't have like browser fragmentation like we had back in the late 90s and early 2000s. But we also will disagree on certain things like the specifications. So yeah, I don't exactly know what you're looking for there, but let me put a link to that in there. People seem interested in that. And let me put this Flock thing in here. We will disagree with Google. We will also sometimes agree with Google. It depends. Like, Google isn't like uniformly bad, and Google is not uniformly good. Some of the ideas are great ideas. Some of the ideas need some tweaking. Some of the ideas we think are not good ideas, and maybe shouldn't happen. And we'll evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. For Manifest v3, our position was like, okay, we're going to do that too, but we're going to tweak it for ourselves. And that's so that users get the advantage of, and extension authors get the advantage of writing it once, more or less, shipping it in multiple browsers. But also, we want uBlock to keep working. We want it to have like the power that users expect. And who knows, maybe down the line, Google will rethink the declarative net request stuff or we'll find that declarative net request is sufficient. Who knows? But we're hedging our bets here a little bit. We want to make it so that users have choice. That's the idea here. Google and Apple are playing hard in an anti-Moz war. They get too much respect while playing dirty. Don't mean to be negative here. Google and Apple are playing hard. I'm not sure what you mean, Jamie NK. It's competition. The idea is build stuff that users like, that users want, that users love, and that is good for the web. That is what our job is. And maybe there's some like political movements at the higher levels. I'm not privy to any of that stuff. I have no idea. But our job, and if in this stream, we build stuff that's good for the web. We build stuff that users, that's either going to protect users, keep them safe, or give them some utility or control. Is gonna help them so like the web keeps working. That's the idea. I don't know what else to say, and I want to move on actually, because I'm like 12 minutes, 15 minutes into the stream, and I've mostly been talking. But that's actually good in a way. I've been buying some time. I've been stalling because I had to do a build in the background, and hopefully that build's done. Yes, it is. Okay, so what are we going to here? We are back in the day. I think I'm done talking about extensions. In fact, let me reparent this. Sorry, I got distracted by the structure of this document. I'm going to indent. How do I do that inside of Joplin? I'll just do it like this. Okay. So a couple of episodes ago, many episodes ago, maybe like almost a month ago, it was episode 304 we last did this. We were working on this Windows jump list stuff. And we were trying to make the Windows jump list work off of the main thread. And I don't want to spend too much time sort of refreshing memory on like what all that means. If you're curious, I would recommend watching episodes 304 and maybe 302 and 301 and I don't know, did we do it in 300? No, we didn't do it in 300. We've been doing it for a while though. We've been working on this for a while, and we kind of hit this interesting pivot point in episode 304 where we realized, hey, the way things are set up here, it would be nicer if we could make things simpler rather than just like wrapping everything with promises or making everything return a promise. Based on the structure of how the Windows jump list stuff works, we can actually offer a much better API for JavaScript callers because what we currently have effectively exposes the Win32 API for the jump list to JavaScript. And so that's why we have this kind of like awkward API of like having to create a builder and then having to create items for the builder and then committing the items in the builder to the list. And that could probably be made a lot simpler for our particular use case. Like I'm going to suppose that the people who are working on this at Windows, they were like, we're going to try and make this as flexible and general as possible because there's so many different use cases. And like, I get it. Making an operating system is hard and there's so many different kinds of programs and you want to support all different use cases. So you make the API really sort of granular. If you've ever used the WebRTC web API, it's kind of similar where it's like, here's a bucket of tools, compose them into whatever thing you want. But that also makes it like more complicated. And for our particular use case, we can abstract away a lot of that complexity at the platform layer so that the JavaScript API is much simpler. And that also means that we can centralize where a lot of what we're trying to do off of the main thread into one spot. As opposed to trying to kind of like spot fix each of these places to be off main thread. We can just make the whole thing off main thread by changing the entire API surface. That's the idea. Oh, Jamie NK says, don't mean to be negative here. Hey, it's all good. I'm glad you asked the question. I hope I didn't come off like I was like lecturing or scolding. I hope I didn't come off as scolding. My bad. If I did, I apologize. I guess I was confused about what you meant. And in general, like, I don't like to badmouth other people unless they're being actively evil, actively bad. And like, again, a company is generally speaking, we can say that a company as large as something like Apple or Google or Microsoft is not uniformly good or uniformly bad. Anything sufficiently large will never be uniformly anything, generally speaking. I mean, you can look at like the net impact on the ecosystem, but all of those companies have done great things and all of those companies have done kind of sketchy things at times, or like kind of things that make me go, I don't know. And so, you want to look at it on a case-by-case basis. And when it comes to the Manifest v3 stuff, it was the right call for users, I think. It was the right call for web extension authors. It was the right call for users, and we've made the adjustments so that we can continue to support things like uBlock and other things that use blocking web request, and I think that was the right call. So special shout out to the web extension team who has to navigate all this stuff, and probably who are special shout out to the web extension team who I'm gonna guess are sick of working on Manifest v3 and would much rather work on something else soon. So hopefully that'll be done soon. Okay, so yeah, we had started to work on simplifying the API. In fact, I think I had started to take some notes. And like I had invented this sort of like, hey, let's suppose this is how you do it. You create a method called populate jump list, and it takes a sequence of jump list descriptions, which takes strings and a long, and then that's it. Like that's how you populate the jump list, and that all happens off of the main thread. That would be so much simpler than like having to do all this builder stuff, which if you're not familiar with the builder stuff, I mean, take a look at what's going on inside Windows jumplist.jsm right now, because it's like it's very like picking up individual bolts and nuts and screws and stuff. Like it's I feel like it's so it's symptomatic of too much detail being exposed to the caller. And we can simplify it. So we had started to do that. We'd written some patches. I've rebuilt Central. How much time have I wasted? 24 minutes. Let's get in here. Let's do this. Now, I built Central with my debug build, but I haven't actually built the patches. I don't remember if they were in a buildable state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update to the rebased patches, and then I'm going to build. Excuse me. I've got one of these, and I could not suppress a burp. My bad. I should have done it off screen. That's one of the, hey, warts and all. If this was a professional edited thing, I probably would have like done a cut there, done a burp, resumed. But hey, what are you gonna do, right? Now, one of the things that I remember we got to is we made it so that we could actually pass these things. We'd figured out a way of supplying. It was like this weird mixture of WebIDL and XPCOM, because like the interface is through XPCOM that we're talking to this thing, but this whole like description is with WebIDL, and the advantage to using WebIDL is we get a couple of nice things, like some nice syntactic sugar and a lot of boilerplate taking care of us for converting from JavaScript land to C++ land without having to use a lot of like XPCOM gunk. Because sometimes when you pass stuff between those two worlds, it can get a little messy. Especially if once you do that, then you want to pass things between threads, because certain XPCOM things do not go between threads very nicely. Types maybe, but certainly not services. And so we had gotten to this point where we are, let's pull up the code again. We defined this jump list shortcut description in here. I think we'd put it inside of Chrome Utils. Yeah, and we called it Windows jump list shortcut description to make it clear that this thing only makes sense on Windows. And we defined it. It gets built. That's great. And then we were generating an init for it. And then where were we? We were inside, I think, jumplistbuilder.cpp. And let's look at, again, this is because I haven't done this. I don't work on this whenever I'm not on the stream. So you're watching me sort of remember on the fly. Okay, so we had created the new method that we had been piloting. I'm like, okay, let's populate this thing. And what we were doing was we were doing the work of converting what's being passed in from JS to the description. Right. This is the magic. And for some reason, initting it, like passing in an invalid object, was not throwing this. And that's the first thing I wanted to look at today, was like, hey, I want to make sure that whatever gets passed in follows a particular structure. I want whatever gets passed in to follow this structure. All of these items must be supplied. None of them are optional. And, or, you know, these can be the empty string, presumably. But, you know, they all need to be supplied. And I remember it didn't work that way. And so I want to look into why that is. So the first thing I want to look at is the generated code for these init methods. So like this Chrome utils.webidl stuff right here generates C++. Like that's what WebIDL does, is we have this parser that runs at build time to turn all this stuff into a bunch of boilerplate C++. And I want to take a look at it. And so the way I'm going to do that, I have to find it first. It doesn't get put into the source directory. It gets put into what's called the objdir, or the object directory. And that will be under, in my debug build, I think my folder, what do I call it? Obj debug. And it's going to be somewhere in here, and I think it'll be called chrome utils.binding.h. And this, instead of waiting for this, I've got a suspicion it's under dist. That's going to save us some time, because I think I've tried doing this before. Oh, I've got an even better idea. Instead of waiting for grep or whatever, or find, is where does it live in the tree? It's generated, it's under dist include Mozilla DOM. That's where it should be. See, Mozilla dist include Mozilla DOM. Okay, so here are all of our bindings, and we're going to look at chrome utils binding.h, and we're going to look at Windows jump list description. So it's got a dictionary. There's a base that we're building off of. That makes sense. And we asked for an init to be defined inside here. We're like, hey, generate an init for me. And what even is that? So like this is the header. Where's the implementation? Fast Windows jump list shortcut description binding detail. Is there, for example, an implementation in this file? Doesn't look like it. Explicit inline. Does a Chrome utils binding.cpp get created? It does. DOM bindings. Okay, so that's where we'll look next. Let's look at the implementation file. Sorry, what was that directory? It was DOM bindings. Subl DOM bindings. Wait. Oh, dist generated. So on Windows, where would it go? DOM bindings. Maybe it's still under dist. Chrome utils binding.cpp. Is it somewhere in here? I wonder if it's under like bin or public or something. Where would it be? Chrome utils binding. That's where the header file is. DOM bindings. Where is that? Where is that? .cpp. Where does it put it? Or maybe it's not under dist. Let's do a quick sniff around. Yeah, these are just execute. This is like what finally gets built. I wonder if it's actually in. Yeah. Oh, of course it's here. Of course, it's in the root. CPP. Okay. So now let's look for Windows jump list shortcut description. So here it is. Here, this is the constructor. Safe to pass a null context if we pass a null value. So that's my first question. Do we want it to be possible to pass a null? Kinda no. So is there a way we can opt out of that behavior? We have to look at how code generation works for our C++ stuff. If needs conversion, class constructor, get structs, class member, if parent. We always want to init our parent with our non-initializing constructors. In ourselves, and we don't want to init happening. If parent, self-name, make class name, has ignore init check flag. If needs conversion from JS, yes, we will need that. Otherwise, the initial args are and then the class constructor visibility. So I don't know if we can like opt out of that. Maybe we are generate init from JSON. Can be represented as JSON. Needs conversion init method with call context. All right, let's go back to the implementation here. So it looks like init will accept null for the value if there's a context. We check to see. It looks like we create this like atoms cache. We check to see if we are convertible to a dictionary. The value should be true. If not, no, we get the property. Arguments by ID. We get the property off of the object. So we will return false from this init method. Is any member present? If not, is null. Get the property. If we can't get the property ID, so it would return undefined. This is like, that's a value. So even if we're returning undefined, that will return something, and so we'll get past that. What is temp? Temp object. Oh, that's what we're reading in. Yeah, if it's not null and it's not undefined, then we see if we can convert it to a string. If we can't convert it to a string, so yeah, that's if so. It's to make sure that we're not passing in something like really rich, like a function or something, I think. Any member is present. And how is that used? So I think it makes sense that because all of those things can be converted to a string, it'll work. How is any member present used? Is any member present? So that's something that you can call on a dictionary. So how do we make it so that it like all members must be present? If not null and it's not undefined, we'll accept the icon index. So long as they're not undefined, we'll convert them and write them into these members. I guess, is there a way of saying like, hey, you need to have all of the things? I guess that'd be something on dictionary base. Structure uses a base class, particularly swinging as base of detect dictionary template color. Stringify is any member present, and then yeah, not really, eh? All members present. Okay. How about WebIDL? Let's look inside .webidl and we're going to look for the term optional. All arg is required seems like it should be pretty commonly used. I agree. So all fields are optional. Dictionary. So maybe I should be looking for the word required in .webidl. Required. Oh, you can supply a required. You can supply a required. That seems like the missing piece. So what parts of these are required? I think all of them, right? Like, what do we use the in Windows jump lists? We'll set, I think it's necessary that we set the app, which is basically a description of what to do whenever the user clicks on an item, the icon for it, favicon page URI. And how's that used again? Jump list shortcut favicon page URI. Sorry, I might be shortcut set favicon page URI. How is that used? What do we do with that? Get favicon page URI. We get the URI, the favicon URI. If we find one, then what do we do with it? Oh, then we switch to using a potentially cached icon URI. I see. Otherwise, we'll use the app icon index. Got it. Does our code accommodate that? It's our definition here. Icon path, fallback icon index. I think this was like, hey, in the event that we didn't set this, okay, yeah, then fall back to that. So I guess that's optional, the icon path. But everything else, I guess, can be supplied. Should be supplied. The path for the what you would execute, arguments that are part of this, like the path to the executable, arguments, a description that's basically what's going to be presented to the user as like the text, and then an optional icon path, and then we do want the fallback icon index. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to say required on almost all of these. That's my plan. We're going to say required. Whoops. Required. Well, are the arguments required? You might just want to execute a thing with no arguments. Okay, not required. Descriptions required. Fallback icon index required, because presumably there we would always want an icon, right? Like not showing an icon is kind of would be kind of broken. Like you always want to show an icon over here. It'd be pretty weird looking if you didn't have one. So we always want a fallback icon index. Okay. So let's build that. So SmurfD's like loop through the ones and assert existing. So the good news is now that we've made these required, we get that for free. Like I'll bet you the generated code now is going to do that enforcement for us. In a moment, we'll probably see this file get rewritten. I just saw it happen. And description member, yeah. Required dictionary member. Yeah, so now we will start throwing things if we don't supply the required stuff. Woo! So that's good. That's what we wanted. And now, unfortunately, all of this has to get rebuilt. So that'll take a couple of seconds because we changed Chrome utils and that's used everywhere. But now we can start thinking about what we're going to do next. We've sort of solved one mystery, I think. Builder, not item. We'll probably be able to get rid of we might be able to get rid of jump list item when all is said and done, because we don't need to expose that anymore via xbcom once we're done here. Okay, so this should still work. We'll init we'll return invalid arg, which this returns a promise. So yeah, I guess instead of returning a promise, it'll throw an exception rather than returning the promise. It's not going to reject because we can tell right away this is not going to work. Once we have those things, then we can move them to the other thread to get them created and written and committed to the jump list. Let's see if we can do some of that today. That'll be interesting. So let me just write out what I want to do. I want to move these desks, the Windows jump list shortcut descriptions, to the background thread so that the right primitives can get created on that thread. The right they're com primitives, I think, can be created on that thread and then written into the jump list, all in one shot. And I wonder if it should also be kind of like, I can't imagine we want it to be additive. When you call populate jump list, I think what we want to do is we want to blow away anything that was already there and then create an item for each thing that's being described. We also want to make it possible to blow away the jump list altogether, but I can't imagine it'd be useful to have populate jump list like be additive. Like, we don't want to necessarily have to make the callers clear the jump list and then populate, clear the jump list and then populate. It's probably less awkward if we just say populate, 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 populate. And if for some reason we need to clear it, clear it. Okay. So this is going to get kind of complicated, I think. So I am actually going to dispatch that to a different thread and have that thread execute a different method, I believe. And we were doing some of that before with like the do delete active list stuff. Yeah, we're saying like, hey, basically this entire structure here, we're going to want to do that. But here's what we'll do. Now that we've like created that thing, we're going to create our, we should definitely have ensured that we're running on the main thread right from the very start. We should not be on the worker thread. And then we do have the context, so we get the global. And then we're going to create a promise. And then once we have the promise, we can create a runnable. And we're going to say do populate jump list. And I think there's more that we want to pass, not just the promise. We're going to want to pass. This is where we can say, hey, we want to pass this array. So we'll do that, but we'll dispatch that to the IO thread. Part of me wonders whether or not this should be like low priority dispatch. So to do low priority dispatch. And then if all goes well, then we return our promise to the caller. It's called a promise. Ooh, what's going on here, Sublime? Thank you. Sublime is kind of acting up. I think it's because I'm doing this big old build in the background, completely hosing my CPU. And instead of saying delete active list, we're going to say do populate jump list. And then over here, we're going to declare, or we're going to have our, let's set up the structure for actually doing the work. Once we have the do populate. Let's not worry about passing in the descriptions yet. Let's just set up the oh yeah, make scope exit to populate jump list. That's handy. We won't need a lock anymore. That's the nice thing about this, is we won't need the lock anymore. Like I'll do it just because for right now we've got a mixture of both the old mechanism and the new mechanism, but we can get rid of the lock. Jamie NK asks, is Mac, Windows, or Linux better for less jank with multitasking like you just had? I think one thing to remember is that I'm doing a build and saturating all my cores. So take a look at let's take a look at my CPU usage. My CPU usage is absolutely maxed out. I'm using every single core right up to the top. All 8 cores, all 16 logical processors, just 100%. And that's what you want. I want my build to be fast. I'm willing to sacrifice system performance for a faster build. And unfortunately, I touched chrome-utils.webidl, which everything uses. So anytime you touch a header file that everything touches, it all has to be recalculated and recomputed and compiled. So hopefully we won't be retouching chromutils.webidl, and subsequent builds should be faster. But yeah, I don't know if any one of them is particularly better whenever you have like you're saturating all your cores like this. I think some operating systems are going to have different schemes for multitasking. I didn't take operating systems in school, so I don't really know. Smurfd says I'm in a VM. I'm actually not in a VM. It looks like a VM because I'm switching back and forth, but I'm actually using Microsoft Remote Desktop to remote into a tower I have upstairs, plugged into the Ethernet, and that is actually the host machine is running Windows 10. It itself is running a virtual machine of Linux, and in fact, I might be able to like reclaim some CPU power by shutting that virtual machine down. I don't need it right now, so I can reclaim some memory and maybe some CPU time to dedicate to compilation, which would be good. So yeah, it's a beefy machine, but I'm maxed out all my CPUs, and that's good. That's what I want. So even though I'm experiencing a little bit of jank inside of Sublime, I don't really mind because I'd rather the build just be faster. Yeah, it's an easy mistake to make, Smurfd. I'm flipping back and forth between operating systems between one computer. It would almost certainly be a virtual machine, but no, I'm going the weird route of remoting in with RDP, Microsoft Remote Desktop for Mac OS. Okay, I'm gonna hold this lock. This is just temporary for now. Temporarily do this, but once we get rid of the old API, we can just not have this anymore. We won't need the lock. If building list, do abort list build. Sure. Temporarily do this. Once we get rid of the old API, we can just not have this anymore too. And once we have the error handler, then we do our stuff. Do interesting stuff here. And then we'll say like do populate jump list. And then we'll pass succeeded. And then with maybe resolve succeed. Well, in this particular case, I don't think the promise actually, like the return value doesn't really make much sense, at least for now. I'm gonna just resolve with undefined. There's no succeeded necessary. We can just reject if things go wrong, and if we reject, we can reject with something useful. We're not actually getting a value back that is particularly interesting. I probably shouldn't have saved just now because this is gonna cause a compilation failure. Let's see if I can beat it to the punch by quickly filling out this header. Jump list builder. Void. There. Semicolon. Let's see if we beat it. Did we beat the compilation failure? It might still fail anyways because I have a typo somewhere or something, but Sublime's like, I need CPU. It's a desperate race between Sublime Text and the compiler and LLVM. Come on, Sublime. No! It was oh, I lost the race. Oh well. The build was almost done, so this'll the CPU will free up shortly. Oh, CPU is freeing up. What's going on, Sublime? Get it together. I'm gonna give it a there we go. Sort of got its act together. Close that. Save. All right, let's try now. Now that I've changed this header, which is a different header, it's not included in so many places, so this should hopefully succeed. If this works, if my plan works, then I think I want to completely change the plan here, which is here, let's copy over the plan from episode 304. Yeah, we've done that. Haven't figured that out. And then what I want to do is make populate jump list work to create jump list items all in one shot. Then implement clear jump list. Is that what we called it? Clear list. Implement clear list. We should really think about this testability stuff. Make populate jump list work to create jump lists all in one shot. Implement clear list. And then what are we going to do? See if the above works. If it does, merge patches. So all of the stuff we've done up until now, a lot of it can probably be thrown away because we're not even actually going to use most of it. Like all of the, hey, we want this to return a promise, and this to return a promise, and this to return a promise. None of that's actually going to be useful anymore. So we can merge the patches and then get rid of all of the old changes I made. Or maybe get rid of old changes to that we don't need and merge patches down. Like roll them all up. And then we're going to want to update all the callers of the above method. So we're going to make this more precise. We're going to update jump list, what was it? Windows jump list .jsm to use the new API instead of the old one. Update Windows jump list .jsm to be simpler so that it doesn't try to do so much lazy stuff, since now it's all off of the main thread. We can get rid of that, get rid of that. Then we're going to remove the old implementation. Hooray! And then try and migrate off of the dedicated lazy thread to the background thread pool. That's, I think, our roadmap for the next couple episodes. Make it clear jump list. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's more consistent. Clear jump list. I agree. Jump list. Okay. Did it build? Did it build? Oh, it's linking. Yeah. I don't want to do any of this removal stuff until we can prove, like, there's a threshold here. See if the above works. This is the important part. If this is going to work, then all of this can be rethought. Like, all this can be executed. If it doesn't, back to the drawing board. We're going to have to sort of, like, figure out what we're missing and maybe go back to plan A, which was just make the whole, expose this clumsy API, which is not great, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. I actually think that this is going to be a substantial improvement. All right, so it built. And now what I want to do is I want to yeah, we're going to run, I'm going to use the JS console. I want to construct a builder using the taskbar service. So we're going to get the taskbar service. SI1 taskbar. You know, we might even, if we can simplify this in our first step here with the jump list builder having just this very simple API, then eventually maybe we can just move all of that into the taskbar service so that you don't even need to create a builder. Wait, no, we do want individual builders. Because we got different flavors for different windows. Okay. We might need to keep the structure the way it is. Okay. So debug builds are a little slower, but that's kind of the point. In that they're doing a lot of like by not being optimized. CC. By not being optimized, it means we can more easily debug it. Taskbar. Is that a service? That's what it's called? Yeah, okay. And then we're going to say Windows taskbar service. We're going to basically say create a jump list builder, false. We're going to call it B. All right. Now we should have a thing that we can call. Where's our IDL here? Jump list builder that we can call populate jump list on. B, populate jump list. Yes. Okay. And now I'm going to pass it like an empty array. Hey, can't convert object to array. Okay. Now how about if I pass, or empty object. Now if I pass it an array of just an empty object? Hey, we're missing a description member. Okay. Well, what if I pass in a description member? Description. Come on. And it's a 0. Hey, we're missing fall. I guess because a 0 can be converted into a string, we just like do that. Description. And then let's also pass in fallback icon index. Pass in 0. What else are we missing? We need the path. Path, we'll just pass in the empty string. Hey, all right. We can await it, and it got fulfilled. And yeah, it becomes undefined. So we've got our whole like pathway here where we do all of this stuff. We then dispatch the message to a different thread. We do a bunch of preamble, and then we resolve with undefined at the very end here. And that is working. So now, let's commit. Let us commit. And now we're going to figure out how to transfer the descriptions off to the other thread. Let's see if we can do that before the episode's over. And then next week, maybe we can do the interesting stuff, which is trying to get them to show up. Maybe what we can do is we can sabotage the old stuff so that we don't have to worry about interference from it. And then, stuff to show up. Yeah, tune in next week definitely, because unless something else comes up, I think that's what we're probably gonna hopefully get to, is where we've got stuff showing up in the jump list. What are you talking about? Did it commit though? Good. Okay, that worries me. Okay, let's see if we can get those things over. So we've got this NST array, and I think what you need to do whenever you do this is, like, you say, when you say, hey, runnable method, you pass it. It's a template, and you give it a description of what you're going to be passing. So I actually may have done this earlier in the same file, so let's take a quick peek. I'm reasonably certain we did. Yeah, where you passed a string. Was there another place where we passed stuff? Ref pointer, just maybe, or okay, and then ref pointer. So let's go to that one where we passed in a string here. Yeah, you just pass it as the second item, and then supply it after promise. And then over here, it's going to be received as a constant. So is there a place, like, do we have, like, const nst array? Yeah, that sort of thing comes in sometimes. Yeah, all right. All right, so I presume we have to pass in the type. Maybe what I'm looking for is like copy pass by reference. Oh, we can do that. Maybe we just pass by reference. Store copy pass by right reference. We're going to copy the reference. No, I want to actually move the data. I want to move the data. Transforms. And that's what this does. It moves it into the thread. And that's what I want to do. Okay. Wait, should this be moving? I wonder if that should be moving. I'll have people smarter than myself review this. So maybe what I'll do is I'll say store. What are we passing? The JS object that got converted. Yeah, basically these Windows jump list shortcut descriptions, which is a WebIDL dictionary. Store copy pass by right reference. NST array. Windows jump list shortcut description. Enter. And one more. Okay. And then standard move desks. And then to do. Should the promise be standard moved as well? Stand back. I'm moving stuff between threads. Okay, and then this will take const. Modify layer transforms. Layers Chrome. Process controller notify. Oh, I see. Same method, different thread. So, yeah. I say constant st array. Windows jump list shortcut descriptions. Let's just see if that builds. Oh, I guess it's not a constant. Why wouldn't it be? Can we make it a constant? That would make me feel better. Why was this one not a constant? Man, really inconsistent right across the board. But let's see if we say const nst array windows jump list shortcut description ampersand ampersand, and then it doesn't know what that is. We're gonna have to tell it what we're talking about. So we're gonna say that that is a struct. Is it a struct? Dictionary base. What is dictionary? Chrome utils chrome binding.cpp. What is? It is a struct. Okay, so jump list builder.cpp. We want to say we're gonna forward declare jump list builder.h. We're gonna forward declare. What was it? Mozilla DOM. Widget detail. Namespace DOM struct. Wait, we're going to want to do that outside of widget. Then we're going to say DOM. Right? Let's see. Smurf D asks, not sure if this gives you any idea about the promise. Oh, I love your search foxing, Smurf D. Standard move the pending type requests. We're going to move them from the member into this NST array. What is M pending type requests? It's an ST array. And we move the array to here. That's interesting. We never move it. Like, we move it here. I don't know much about standard move. Move has always kind of mystified me. So I know it's a way of avoiding copies, and that's what we would generally want to do. When you're moving stuff between threads, if you can avoid copying, if you can just like move the memory, that's best. Especially like, you know, copies are expensive. But the whole semantics of it are a little mysterious. Okay, that built. So let's go a little bit further then. Let's say, okay, instead of just accepting the descriptions, now let's iterate through the descriptions. We can iterate an NST array like this. For auto, we're going to call it description of a desk's descriptions, right? We're going to get at the one of the members. Let's get at the member path. Let's just print out the path member. Let's see if we can do that. And if we can, let's call it a day. I wish that, what is this? Tool? Is that a tooltip? What is this doing here? Is this a tooltip that's in the way? It is a tooltip that's in the way. What in the world? Sublime. Jump list builder. .cpp. Okay. For each description, I want to get it the string. I want to see whether or not the string exists. These things are value JS string, and we get an M description, or like the M path. Let's look at path because we're going to be using that one. M path. M path is just an NS string. So that means I have to convert I'm going to promise that it's to print one of these things. Oh, geez, my internal string guide. Strings are hard in native languages. And a string, it's the wide string. And I want to print this. You want to like promise flat, created through promise flat string. If I just wanted to like print F, if you want to print F something, it's to non-ASCII, please convert to UTF-8. UTF-8, print hello world, that's literals. Oh, I think I just saw it. Convert. I think this is what we want. I think I've seen this before. So that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to print off of the main thread. We're going to print, which may or may not be hilarious because of the threading. It might come out in different orders, but we're going to say like printf jump list builder thread speaking here, and we're going to printf found a description, and the path will be hang on, it was path, and the string is desk dot, do I just say mpath? Is it public? Jump Chrome binding. I think you just get the member. Like, I think it's a, there's no like special getter. I think you just get the member. Okay. Mpath. Save. Build. Oh, thank you, Smurfy. I've read this before. I'm going to pocket it. I've read this before. I won't lie. This stuff is so... I have a hard time making it work in my head. But yeah, I need to do the work of understanding this. This is the sort of thing that I think Rust does a really good job of hammering into you because it allows you to more easily borrow things between threads. Like it doesn't force you to have, it doesn't give you this option of, oh, you can move, you can copy, or you maybe this, maybe that, maybe that. It's like, okay, if you got to borrow this, if this is a mutable reference, you can borrow it. There's only one borrower at the time, or we're copying. I think you can, well, so maybe it does let you choose. I don't know. I don't know if Rust is better than this, but I think it is. But I think it is worth me finally someday. Maybe this will be my New Year's resolution, is I'm going to finally understand move semantics. And maybe then I'll talk about it and describe what's going on. Oh, okay. If this works, I'm going to call that a win. I'll commit. We'll call that a day for the episode. Let me know what you thought of the episode. There is a form you can fill out. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but there is a form in all of the places where you saw the links to the agendas. There's a link to this rate this episode form. I read everything that comes in. In fact, I think something came in last week. Let me quickly pull that up. Hold on, I'm going to do that off screen because it's in my Google Drive. Just one sec. Episode 307. There was a question that was asked. Was it a question? How does... Oh, yeah. Okay, here's the question. The question was, and maybe I'll answer this, how does the nightly blog schedule work? Because sometimes there's a blog post every week and sometimes there's radio silence for a month, like right now. Okay, yeah, I can answer that. But first, let's see if we can redo our experiment here. We're going to create our Win taskbar service. We're going to create our builder. Okay. And now we're going to say populate. Didn't crash. That's good. Found a description. But path. Oh, because right. We're going to provide a path. Hello? There it is. Off of the main thread. Hello. Let's do a couple. Let's pass another one. All of this headache just to pass an object between threads from JavaScript, right? But it's gonna be worth it, gang. The API is gonna be so much better. Yeah, it works. All right, let's commit that. Shut down. And commit amend. And then next week we can do the work of actually like inserting stuff into the Windows jump list and the native layer, like the Win32 COM stuff. And that'll be a real trick. That'll be fun. Sometimes shutting down takes a little while. Hopefully it's not because of a shutdown leak or something. I don't know what it would be complaining about. Sometimes shutting down takes a second because debug builds being slow. But let's go back to this question here, which was, how does the nightly blog schedule work? Because sometimes there's a blog post every week and sometimes there's radio silence for a month, like right now. Great question. Okay, so what blog is being talked about here? That's this one. And I actually talked about it at the very top of this episode. So we're referring to this blog, the nightly blog, where periodically we'll have these posts come out. Issue 125, 26, 27 of These Weeks in Firefox. And they come out pretty regularly. June 30th, then about 2 weeks later, July 18th, then about 2 weeks later, July 28th. And then sometimes there's like a big pause. Like there was a big pause between October 20th, and then one came out to yesterday. And that was before this question was asked. So there was like about a month of radio silence. So what's going on here? What is happening? And the answer is that all of these blog posts are based on these meetings that we have. These meetings happen every 2 weeks, generally speaking. And then they this is out of date. They happen every 2 weeks. The information for joining, if you want to join, is in here. And we there's a mailing list post that goes out to announce the meeting. I think it's like what was it? Yeah, we announced there was no meeting on November 1st. And then desktop development meeting, we mentioned it on October 10th. And we said, here's the details, and then here's the agenda. The agenda, here I'm going to show you the agenda. The agenda is where we like take notes. This is like last week's agenda. This is actually almost a verbatim copy of the blog post. As the meeting gets like going, we take notes in here. And then once the meeting is done, we like clean it up basically and post them to the blog. And that's what these are. We also send a copy to the Firefox Dev mailing list. That's what Nick did earlier yesterday here. And so the reason why there was radio silence is there was no meeting. And the reason there was no meeting is because 2 weeks ago, we had something called Low Meeting Week, which is, hey, we want to give some time back to people. So once a quarter, Low Meeting Week is something we do where if you're running a meeting and it's not critical, cancel it. Cancel as many meetings as you can. Try and free up as much time as possible. So, you know, you're running a status update, cancel it. Are you running a planning meeting that doesn't necessarily need to happen? Cancel. One-on-ones, cancel them. Cancel anything that is not critical to free up as much time in people's weeks as possible to give them sort of like an opportunity to catch up on stuff that maybe they're falling behind on and they need time back from meetings. We have one of those. This has started. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. It's really great. I love them. And there was one 2 weeks ago. And since there's a meeting every 2 weeks, and then we skipped one, that means 4 weeks between meetings, and that's why there was a month of radio silence. So that's the answer to the question. Let's go back to the question. It's based on the Firefox desktop meeting that happens. That meeting happens usually every 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, meeting was canceled due to Low Meeting Week. Expect similar turbulence as we enter the holidays. When the meeting doesn't happen, these things don't get written, is what happens. So, like, as we enter the winter holidays in December, this meeting's going to get canceled here and there, and so there might be a little bit more radio silence, but then we get pretty regular, like January, February, when that rolls around every 2 weeks, you should see something hit the blog and the mailing list. But, you know, when we hit our low meeting weeks, then you'll hear radio silence. But that's not something that we tell everyone, hey, it's low meeting week. We're not posting anything because it's none of your business. We just post whenever we've had our meeting. So, yeah, that's the answer to the question. Hopefully that answers it. I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much for watching episode 308 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know what you thought by clicking rate this episode in the agenda. You can send me questions just like this one, which was sent in from a viewer just like you. Even if you're not watching this live, maybe you're watching the recording, continue to rate this episode. Maybe you're watching this 3 weeks from now. And you can still ask a question using this link, and I'll see it. I'll see it come in, so you can ask that, and I'll answer it. I'll try and answer it during the next stream. I'll do my best. If I don't have the answer, I obviously can't answer the question, but I'll do my best. So thanks again for watching. Have yourselves a great week. Hopefully I'll see you next week. And take care, everybody. So let me just switch here. All right. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.